Hey guys, welcome back to MassiveSynth.com tutorials. This is part 4 of the series we've been doing this month, making analog sounds with Massive, taking a lot of inspiration from boards of Canada. And parts 1 and 2 we made a couple of different sounds in Massive, these kind of drifting chord type things. So if you just hold down one note here. So yeah, sound, all the kind of programming's been done with inside Massive, and in part 3 we looked at processing one of the sounds we made using some kind of techniques to give it that analog flavour, and we're going to be doing a similar thing in this tutorial but using some different plugins and some different techniques. So we've got this sound here, basically this. So two things I wanted to do was start processing it with some other plugins. I was going to use a reverb unit, turn that reverb off because that massive reverb can be a bit sort of trashy, digital sounding, and also the chorus, turn that off as well, so add our own chorus in. So we just got that sound at the moment. So let's go over here, just load in. To start with, I was going to use a compressor, and I was going to go for the PSP AudioWare old timer. We used this, we looked at this in the previous tutorial, and it's still in, I've got the demo basically, so you guys could go and download it. So click that to run it, and I'm going to add two compressors again like we did with the previous tutorial. So I was going to put this old timer in first, add a load of other kind of plugins, and then just tie the sound together a little bit by adding another compression at the end. So we want to go quite subtle again with this. It's quite a subtle compressor, so even on ratio 4:1 it's still sounding quite subtle. Put this time forward a little bit. So I think this time is just controlling the attack. I think the release is automatic on this compressor, so you push the compression amount up a little bit. So we're getting about 4 or 5 dB of gain reduction, and if you listen closely, if I bypass it here, it's kind of compressing the sound, and it's reducing some of those really sometimes potentially harsh high frequencies, which is, you know, helping to achieve that kind of old analog sort of warm sound. So yeah, it's quite subtle, but it's kind of doing its job. So maybe push the makeup gain up a little bit, or the output. So yeah, we're not losing too much kind of volume on the sound. So with that set up, let's add some chorus next. And I don't know if you guys have ever checked out any of the TAL stuff, but most of it's free, Tego audio line, and they've got like a kind of Juno 106 emulation, which is really nice. They've also got this chorus 60 effect, and I think this is modelled on the chorus sound on the Juno 106, so it's got that Juno kind of chorus. So, you know, it's got an old school feel, which is pretty cool, and it's free, so you can just go and download it. Just Google TAL chorus effect, I think it should come up. So it's just adding that chorus, it's adding that sort of nice warm chorus effect. So if we put it on, so this has got some presets that you could look at too if you wanted to look at some of these presets, but I just found, I mean, there's only a couple of things to sort of edit here, so it's quite straightforward to use. So put it on that type of chorus, keeping the volume around halfway, push the mix of the chorus up a little bit, and increase the stereo width just to give the sound quite a nice wide feel. take that mix down a little bit. And again, it's taking away some of the harsh brightness of the sound and just giving it a nice bit of warmth. So that was pretty nice kind of effect to use. And yeah, all that tile stuff's, most of it's just free to download. So yeah, go and check it out. And next I was going to add some reverb back in, and I used the Valhalla again, what we looked at in the previous video. Load it up. This gated chorus verb preset, which is quite crazy, you know, and probably a bit too extreme for this type of sound, but we can edit this reverb a little bit. So pull the mix down, it's around halfway. Pull that pre-delay down a little bit so it's not too kind of out of sync. Pushes decay up a bit actually. And just pull that mix right down so it's just a bit more subtle on the reverb. Maybe roll off some of the bottom end on that reverb too, and maybe take some of this high cut, take that down a little bit. So yeah, it's just adding, we looked at that reverb in a bit more detail in the previous tutorial, but it's a nice kind of reverb to use, quite smooth sounding, and yeah, it's modelled on some of the old Lexicon units, so it should be giving us that nice kind of warm old school feel. And the next thing I was going to add was another free plugin by iZotope called Vinyl, which is free to download from the iZotope website. And yeah, it's basically designed to just add in some vinyl effects, so some of that scratching. So if you look at the presets here, I've got a number of presets. If you listen carefully, you can actually hear already I've got sound in there, it's added in constantly. And yeah, you know. Some of the presets are ranging from stuff that's quite subtle to stuff that's more extreme, and you have these various different controllers, so you can control how much scratch is on there. So obviously too much, but or dust, electrical noise, wear, mechanical noise, and you've got the amount here as well. So yeah, the amount of scratches you're going to apply. You can also have here the year, so if you go down to 1930, the sound gets a bit more degraded like an older record, or you know, you can move it up, so 2000 is a little bit more smoother. The RPM, so again you seem to get more scratches if you go up to 78. So you know, it's quite a cool cheap way of just adding some sort of old school kind of vinyl feel to your sounds. So I mean, I go the settings we've got right now, I'll probably go a little bit more subtle. I mean, you could maybe take it down a little bit on the year, about 1980. Just take the scratch and the dust down a bit, this amount down, to the electrical noise down and the wear down a bit. and it's just kind of degrading the sound a little bit. I mean, you can hear it in there, you can hear the sort of noise. It's almost giving like a kind of sort of little kind of mains hum. So I mean, you could, if you prefer, use it as a kind of in a sort of a bus send. So you could just, and then you have more control if you wanted to do it like that, because then if you're using it as a bus send, you can kind of like insert an EQ afterwards and just roll off any of that sort of, because obviously that electrical noise is adding kind of low frequency, so you can control that a little bit on a bus send, you know, and just, you know, hear their scratches in there. So I think it's a really cool plugin. Obviously it has its place really, and it's not suitable for all types of stuff, but if you want a bit of kind of authentic sounding vinyl in there, you know, check that out. Free plugin from iZotope. To round this sound off, I was just going to add another PSP old timer, and I noticed when I downloaded the demo that you get the compressor, the unit we've been looking at, but you also get the PSP Oldtimer ME, which has a few more features. So we've got attack and release now, and just, you know, makeup gain, dry wet. I think the dry's maybe because it's in demo mode, we don't have the option to use the dry because it's crossed out, so maybe that would be for like parallel compression and stuff. So we even have like a little bit of a sidechain EQ here to roll off any low frequencies, if you know, if you're kind of compressing a drum loop or something and you wanted, there was too much power coming from the kick drum, you could roll some of that off here. So, but again, because we've got one compressor inserted at the start of the chain and various effects, I was going to be quite subtle with this again. So medium attack and release, push the ratio up to about 4.1. So again, about, you know, 3 dB of gain reduction. Compression can stay around there. Just A and B in that sound, you know, it's just kind of tying it together a little bit. So yeah, there's kind of another tutorial really, looking at some different techniques and different plugins, you know, the chorus plugin by Tao, which is pretty nice, and that iZotope vinyl, and yeah, just looking at how we can, you know, process a sound to make it sound like it's kind of analog-esque, got that warm feel, although we're just using, you know, in the most part, free plugins or demo plugins. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope you found it useful and it's given you some good tips for processing some of your synth sounds in Massive. Any questions then please get in touch, and thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Cheers, bye.